Okay, so here are six unhinged things hubby and I did when we are separated that helped us start our marriage afresh. And the last one is actually one that really changed our marriage. Okay. So if you've been following me for a while, I turned around my own conflict-ridden and separated marriage to a thriving one that it is now. And these are some of the things that we did when we were separated that gave us the absolute best chances. Okay. And you'll notice most of these are things that you can start to do if you're going through a rough patch. Number one, I didn't date. And when we were separated, that was 4 years ago, I was actually turning 40. So at that point, I knew that there was no lessons. I had the wisdom to know that lessons are repeated until learned. So I did not want to go and start dating because what was the point? I was already in a very tricky part and I really needed to be very clear about what my next move was. If I had decided to date, I might as well have gotten divorced instead of wasting time separated. And guess what? Hubby also did not date anyone. And this was so interesting because we did not sit and agree we are not dating. I just decided to go on my own journey. And eventually he told me that he was not looking for another wife. So he was like, there was no point of him dating. And it really made me realize that you don't get the treatment that you want. You get the kind of treatment from your man, from other people around you, based on how you carry yourself and who you are. Okay, so that was the first thing. The second thing that was unhinged that we did was continued to fully provide when we were separated. And to me, of course, if my hubby is, even if we are going through a rough patch with constant arguments and all this and all that, mostly around money, if he was taking care of me and he was not dating, to me, that was already a green flag towards the right, intention that he was still interested. And that also opened and softened my heart a little bit more. And I'm looking at my notes. Number three, we kept our family routines. And I think this is so important and something that I talk to my one-on-one clients. As a family, I think it's really important to have your own little family rituals outside your in-laws, outside your parents, just little things that represent your home as a household. So in this case, yes, we had a co-parenting schedule. Yeah, because of course I was the one who initiated the separation, so I'd already thought of such things. So we had our own daily routine where we were talking every day, who is picking up. So the usual co-parenting issues. If you want to know how I went through co-parenting, you feel free to ask me in the comment section, and I might make a separate video around that. So the daily conversations around co-parenting, our son and school and all that, had, we were talking, long story short. And also we do have our own family rituals over the weekends. In fact, that was the one thing that Happy told me when I had told him I was leaving. He told me, let us keep our weekend rituals. So this is time where we hang out as a family with our son, whether it's church, whether it's brunch, whether it's for walks. So we maintained that throughout. Okay. And what this did, now that I look back, it really helped us keep our connection. Yes, we are going through a rough patch, but those daily moments where we are talking, we are checking in and all this and all that, it started to bond us a little bit closer each and every day. Okay. So that was the third thing, maintaining our family rituals. Number four, we did not involve our parents. I never went to his parents. I also took a really long time. Actually, it was around the fifth month, almost the sixth month. Um, That's when my dad knew, because of course I was going through a lot of issues because my mom was also had actually she had yeah, she was really, really unwell. Yeah, so my dad were all under so much pressure, and that was not the time. I really did not want to bring up that we are also separated. So anyway, eventually, even during that period, my mom passed on. So I did not want to lump my dad, with more stress. And also, honestly, I didn't want to go and talk to my dad because I was like, the kind of marriage that I want, I'm not seeing anyone around me having it. I didn't want to settle for less, neither I didn't want to divorce. So I knew I needed to get expert support, someone who can help me give me a blueprint of what a thriving, happy relationship looks like. So yeah, so none of us went to our parents. And when he initiated reconciliation, it was like actually he did it a couple of times. The first time was a week first week when we were separated, and I was so scared. I was not ready at all. So instead of telling him, ignoring that conversation, because I didn't want to make a mistake, I didn't want us to have another argument. I was in such a delicate space and I was scared. I didn't want to make a mistake. So I told him that yes, I was open to talking about the future of the marriage because that was what he wanted. However, I needed time, and I gave him the exact amount of time I needed. I think I bought myself like 3 or so months, okay, so that I could figure myself out. What that did was it gave him time. There's a time frame, and it also gave me a time frame because one of the biggest mistakes I'm seeing with many of my the ladies who are coming to me who are separated, you're getting separated for way too long. Nature abhors a vacuum. To me, if I know what I knew now, 3 months is more than enough. I did 6 months because I had to figure a lot of things out for myself. Okay, so have a timeline. Long story short, 3 months is enough. If you're pushing it, anything more than 6 months, you're in a danger zone. Nature abhors a vacuum. Me, I've seen people who've gotten pregnant when they're separated with their men. I've seen sorts of things. Okay, so that's what it is. He initiated reconciliation. When I was not ready, I gave him a timeline and I remained open. Okay, and how did I remain open? Because, of course, I had a lot of anger, I had a lot of resentment, I had a lot of deep pain. And this is why point number 5 really changed the game for me. I kept asking myself, even if I got a different marriage, I got a wealthier, older man, what would I do differently so that I don't end up the same way? And I did not have an answer. And I realized I had to take accountability for the role I had to play. So that's where I worked with a coach to help me figure myself out, to help me unlearn the dysfunctional ways of relating with men, to help me remove the blocks I had around men and learn healthier ways of relating as a secure woman who can receive love and be adored and be pampered. And interestingly, he also went on his own growth journey. Now, one thing I've realized, and this is a big mistake many wives make, you want to go and tell your man how to grow. It's not your business. How people decide to grow is none of your business. The most important thing you can do is go on your own growth journey. Go figure yourself, go learn yourself, go master yourself, go know what your weaknesses are. And this is the most humbling thing you can ever do because we don't usually like to look at ourselves. But even like what my coach tells me, Linda, if you do not have the result you want, there's something that you don't know. Okay. That's why I always encourage anyone. If you're not getting the results, go sit with an expert, go sit with a coach, go sit with someone to help you figure out why is it that you're not getting this joyful, healthy, intimate marriage that you want. Okay. And there's also something, there's no shame. And I think this is something as hyper independent women, we really put a lot of pressure on ourselves to have everything figured out. Nobody has life figured out. I don't have all the answers. That's why I am willing to learn and grow. And it takes a lot of humility to admit that maybe I do not know, as well as that growth mindset. Because I know at work you always say you have a growth mindset. Apply some of that logic into your marriage, and I can promise you, you start to shift so many things in your life. I always say a woman who's happy in her marriage, it impacts how you are showing up at work. I've had clients who've come, they unlock a few things, and with that level of mindset, esteem, peace, and ease at home, you're able to pour so much of your energy and attention into your career, into your business, and you will find they both grow. Okay. And don't listen to anyone who says you can only have a successful career or a man. No, I believe we are meant to have everything our heart desires. Okay. So that is the fifth thing, growth work. And I think it's unrealistic because I see so many people who say they were separated, then they came back. And every time I'll ask her, what has changed? How have you shifted? And they'll tell me, I have grown, my man has not grown. Already, that is a sign that you've not done the work. Because anyone who's doing the work, first of all, you know there is no judgment. Okay. And number two, when you have done the work, it's so clear whether you are meant to stay in this marriage or not. It becomes very, very clear because there is a way you communicate, there is a way your energy is received, there is a way you express yourself. You will not have the same arguments over and over again. Okay. So leading up to the sixth point, the sixth unhinged thing, and this is something, in fact, it's the one thing that I held very dearly for the last 4 years because it's now 4 years since we got separated. We make agreements. And I know so many people ask me, they come to me, I don't like to talk about these agreements because I feel we like to rush things. Before you communicate, before you sit down and make agreements, know that you cannot solve a problem from the same level of thinking that created it. So if the version of you has not changed, you cannot sit and make an agreement with a man. So that's why by the time you have started to shift your beliefs, your behaviors, your patterns, your habits, you're becoming a secure, healthy woman who is a match for a thriving relationship. Okay? You can sit and make agreements with your man. And I always, in fact, by the time I started to do this, when I was introduced to this concept of agreements, my mind was blown because I was like, when I was in my corporate career, every 3 months we were doing check-ins, we were doing quarterly reviews. I was doing weekly check-ins with my boss, quarterly reviews, half-year reviews, end year reviews. There were so many stops along the year to make sure that, of course, these things are political, but the whole intention was so that by the end of the year, you're not so far off from the goal. And if there is any issue, it's highlighted earlier on. So this is one practice that we do agreements. Okay. And the trick with agreements is you need to be in a space where you are emotionally connected. Otherwise, it starts to look like another control tool. Yeah. Another tool to punish, to control, to really just force your way with a man. But when you are in a healthy state, in a happy state, in a joyful, connected state, an agreement becomes something so much easier. And why? Because you, first of all, understand your needs, your wants, you understand what it is that you desire. He also is meant to tell you what are some of the things that irritate him about you, what are his needs are, what are his wants are, and together you come up with a very simple, sort of like a guide as to how you both of you are showing up in the relationship. So those are the six things that helped us start our marriage afresh. And if you're interested, if you have any questions specifically around agreements, And also, just any more questions about my reconnection story, feel free to drop the question in the comments below, and I might just make a follow-up video. Okay, so the one big tip I want to leave with you today, if you're separated, I want you to give yourself a 3-month timeline. 3-month timeline. By that time, you need to have had clarity on your next steps. Okay, mark your calendar and start moving forward. All right. So thank you so much and looking forward to hearing from you. Bye.